للغاية أن نرى أخوات لنا بيننا.
Because true Islam will never marginalize women. Remember.
فلنتذكر
that if the women do not know the Quran and the words of Allah and study the words of Allah, how then can they pass on to the children what they do not know? My teacher taught me, nation can rise any higher than its woman, for the woman is the mother of civilization. Now, why is this so? When you teach a man, you teach an individual. When you teach a woman, you teach a nation. As you remember the story of Yusuf in the Quran, Yusuf was sold into slavery in Egypt by his own brothers. But Yusuf became a master in the land where he was sold as a slave. We were sold into America by some of our African brothers to be made slaves. But when we were brought to America, the Europeans wanted no Muslims in the Western Hemisphere. So they murdered our fathers and mothers that they could not teach us Arabic, that they could not pass on to us our own names, our own language, our own culture, our own religion, our own God, and our own history. And then they sold us as though we were cattle or sheep or horses or products from one plantation to another. They denied us the right to learn, to know. We fell down in America and became drunkards. We became thieves and prostitutes. We were ignorant people, divided against each other. We were in a state of jahiliyyah, worse than the Arabs prior to the advent of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But Allah, the beneficent, Allah, the merciful, had mercy on us. A woman from this area of the world gave birth to a son in the holy city of Mecca. His name, Farad Muhammad. He came to America to bring Islam to the blacks. He stayed among us 3.5 years. And he searched among us for one person that he could put on his shoulders the mission of raising us up from mental death. And now I'm proud to tell you that Islam has dignified us. Islam united us. Islam made us throw down our whiskey and our wine bottles. Islam stopped us from using drugs. Islam gave us a strong family life. We believe it is our destiny to become masters in the land where we were sold as slaves.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
The problem in the Muslim world is not America, nor is it Israel, nor is it the West. The problem in the Muslim world is that our world has deviated from the path of Prophet Muhammad and from the teachings of the Holy Quran.
God came into the world to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
Greetings. This is your brother Willie Muhammad, with I Have a Testimony on National Network View today. We have several special guests, and these special guests are as follows, brothers and sisters. Sister Mary Alice, Brother Sultan Muhammad, Brother Hamza Muhammad, Brother Harun Muhammad, Brother Rashad Muhammad, and Brother Tadar Muhammad. Each of them are here to share what they have observed and experienced during their travels with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Brothers and sisters, there is so much that needs to be discussed, which is of great significance as it relates to the World Friendship Tours. We know we may not be able to capture every detail of the tour, but we hope that this talk today will inspire more discussion, more testifying, and more analysts of these tours, as from many of the participants who were able to travel with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. As we ask the questions today, they won't be done in a chronological order based upon World Friendship Tour 1, 2, and 3. But we want to ask each participant specific questions so we can hear about their experiences at this tour, on these tours with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And before we actually get into that, I want to personally thank each and every one of our panelists. And I think I can say that I can extend gratitude and thanks on the behalf of all of us in the Nation of Islam. We want to thank you all, brothers and sisters, for everything you have done, everything that you are doing, and everything that you will do to continue to help the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and our nation. Thank you. So I know we don't have a lot of time, but let's get right to it. My first question is to our brother Rashad Muhammad. And Brother Rashad, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said how after the historic Million Man March, he went into a deep reflection and solitude. He said he went into the desert, and then he was shown that the next step was to embark on this World Friendship Tour, right? The first one. And with this decision, when this decision was made, it sparked much anger, envy, jealousy amongst the leadership and the anger of the U.S. government. From your time around the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, during the time of his deep reflection and reflecting on what he was the next step, what can you testify about was his motive for embarking on this tour after the Million Man March?
Thank you. In the name of Allah, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, Muhammad indeed his servant and messenger. First and foremost, I would like to extend to the believers and the viewing audience the greetings on behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan of Assalamu alaikum. Minister Farrakhan asked that every time that I go before the believers, that if I would extend the greetings on his behalf, and his greetings is a form of a prayer to you and your families, wishing you well during a time such as this. So take not his greetings light, take them as an extension of mercy and a blessing from God. As relates to the tour and what took place after the Million Man March, Minister Farrakhan is a guided man, and he's a man that moves upon the inspiration and the directions of God. And I would imagine that during times like that, you're looking for the next step or the next move in your movement, because sometimes you may not even be aware of what it is that God would have you to do. But he knew the significance of the march, and he knew the significance of the work. And I would imagine as he reflected over his teaching, and as he reflected over his God and prayed, then he got the answers that he was looking for. And that was to go to connect the nation of Islam to the nations of the world, because now the whole world was viewing, waiting, and watching the nation of Islam to see what our views and what we were all about. So it was like an introduction, if you would, to the world one-on-one. They have heard of us, they have seen us, but now they get a chance to see his work full scope. And now he goes to connect the nation directly to the nations of the world for the future of a nation. And as I see it, it's still unfolding, and we have not yet even started to capture the blessings that he had went forth and gotten through the connects of friendships around the world.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother, for your response. And so my next question is to our sister Mary Ellis. You know, from your perspective, Sister Mary Ellis, why do you think it is necessary for those who were blessed to be a part of these World Friendship Tours to observe the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan during these travels to testify about what they experienced and what they observed?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for allowing me and giving me the honor to be part of this panel. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I understand the significance of these discussions, because far too often the minister has done, by the grace of Allah, great things, and yet it is not known to the world. It is not being discussed. It is not being displayed enough. And I think those of us that were honored enough to be part of his tours, to let the world know who this man is, the significance of this great man in our midst, what he has done, how he was received, how he is perceived to the rest of the world. But yet in his own home, he's considered a hater, an anti-Semite. And we have an obligation to let the world know that how they portrayed him is not the man at all.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, sister. Appreciate your response. And our next question is to our brother Haroon. So, Brother Haroon, how do you mentally and spiritually prepare for such a task? Like when you are informed that you will be traveling with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to numerous countries, some of which the United States have listed as on their terrorist list or enemies list, and others that are experiencing internal conflict. So how do you prepare for something like that?
For allowing me to be a part of this panel. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah. I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. Well, I have no problem going with the minister wherever he decides to go. It's not a problem for me, you know, because I know the man, I know his character, and I know his connection to Allah, Almighty God. And having that knowledge and feeling in that spirit of that, only thing I can say is prayer prepares you and a willingness to do it, a willingness to go. I don't think that there's great preparation mentally for me. I think that I already understand who the minister is and what he represents. I believe that wherever he say go, as the Honorable Muhammad chided us or told us to do, we should go. Wherever he tells us to stay from, we should stay from. And because of that knowledge and because of that expression, there's really no preparation, just a willingness to do it, in my opinion.
Wow. And you're right. That's very wise. That's very wise counsel, reminding us about the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's words about him. So I'll go to our brother Hamza next. When in 1996, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, from the research that I was able to do, he traveled to on this tour. It was about 20 countries, and then on the second world tour, it was 37, and then on the third friendship tour, it was a number of countries as well. You know, that's a lot of traveling within a small amount of time. What can you share with us about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's work ethic and his commitment to complete the goal as he was on these world friendship tours? Hopefully, so he's experiencing some technical difficulties, but we'll be back as soon as he comes on. So until his camera gets together. There it is. Go ahead, Brother Hamza. Hopefully, so he's experiencing some technical difficulties. All right, well, let's do this. Well, I'll go until our brother, we work that out. So, Brother Sultan, in preparing for this actual interview, we spoke about this, and I asked you about how you've been able to travel with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in many of the cities in America, to and fro. And you've had this opportunity to travel with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan out of the country. How would you compare the response of the people to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan outside of America compared to the response inside of America?
In the name of Allah, the Messenger, in the name of Allah, the beneficent and merciful, I bear witness there's God, Allah, and Muhammad is protected. It's a very wonderful question. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, "What would take us 6 years would only take those in the diaspora 6 months." And that's because they were not as dead as we. I found that to be absolutely true. And I found that even to try to take commission in another country with this teaching would really be something of a cop-out. Because the most powerful of those people are the ones who've been broken down to the least. And that is we here in America. However, when we hear the ministry, it's like a wake-up call. We're hearing something for the first time. We clap. Go ahead, Brother Minister. But when you watch a man born in America from amongst the dead with a word that is not in deliverable existence anywhere else on the planet, because God is not the author of confusion. And when he gives that man a word that wherever he is, whatever the circumstance, and he has not been in the country, let alone spoken to the people, but he can answer the needs and the cries of those people, and they go, what we could say, crazy, because many of these people have been reared in the Quran. They have heard khutbahs all their lives. They have heard talk about the messenger of God and about the Quran all their lives. But there is something in this man, and when they hear the man, they see Quran. They hear Quran. Because the God had put something in him to connect us around the world. And we are still to see how his work has benefited us and will benefit us. So to hear Quran, see Quran, to watch them here and someone falls to his feet to kiss his shoes, and he said, "Get up, bow to no one but Allah." But what did they see to make them want to do that? What did they hear, even though it may have been 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour in translation, many times, that would make someone do that? And all the things that each of us have seen that were so extraordinary in watching him, the way he walks, the way he talks, his voice, the way that God has made him to be attractive to the people here and abroad. He is the work of a master to make him palatable to any true believer, whatever they believe, whatever they call what they believe, to draw men unto him. And it is in this man.
Right. And we thank you for those comments. And next we'll go to Brother Tadar. So, Brother Tadar, when I was preparing for this interview, I looked at some of the video footage that we showed, and they showed this as it shows in this picture. You see yourself, this is in Dagestan, right? And you're getting off. I think you all had the delegation just arrived, and you see them putting on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan the green cloak and the green fez. Reflecting back at that moment, what were your thoughts, and what are your thoughts about that experience now?
In the name of Allah, the benevolent, the merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the world. Thank you, Brother Willie, and I thank the August panels for having me on. And when that happened, I reflect back to the United States of America, and he's speaking freedom, justice, and equality in the beast, in the belly of the beast, our liberation as a people. And what it takes us 6 years to understand, it takes them 6 months. And them being a Muslim country and recognize the minister as been anointed by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to take this word to the 4 corners of the earth. And when we landed there and deplaned, I see that they bestowed this on him. And it just was amazing to me as a security person to honor this man like this, and which he is not honored in his own home. Just being there, brother, present, that made me feel extraordinary, grateful to follow a man like that and give my life to secure him. I thank Almighty God, Allah, for that honor to be present on that tour.
Brother.
Thank you.
And to Sister Mary Alice, I would like to ask you this question next. In the highlight video, the narrator says how the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, all throughout the tour, this particular tour he was talking about, that the minister continued to work despite being in constant pain. right, with his health. That he spoke numerous times, did several interviews promoting atonement. And I'm quite sure you had the opportunity to witness the minister still going forward despite the pain that he actually experienced. What can you testify about how, despite the challenges that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan may personally face, that he does not allow that to deter him from the mission that God has put on his heart?
Part of what I witness is the working of God in a man. To see him in such excruciating pain, but yet many of us, when we're in pain, the pain takes over. We think and we act upon our pain, but he did not. He thought of the work of God, what he had to do, the work of Allah. That's what was first and foremost in his mind. So his body, though his body was crying in pain, but his mind was yearning for the work. So the work came first, in spite of how his body was feeling. And to be able to see that, I knew in my heart, this man is definitely backed by God, have the embodiment of the spirit of Allah in him, that when it says impossibility does not exist in Allah's working, and that's what I witnessed, the impossibility. How could a man be in such pain, excruciating pain, but yet moving, getting up in spite, walking, talking, counseling, all of these people? It was absolutely breathtaking and amazing to me. Unusual individual is who we follow, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, an incredible human being embodied by the spirit of Allah. That's what I saw.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you for those comments. One of the things that we've heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talk about this, that no matter where he is, he's going to speak the truth. And I would like to ask this next question to Brother Rashad. You know, the minister doing this tour, he spoke in various interviews, public spaces, but also various masjids in different parts of the country, right? Saudi Arabia, Africa, Russia, and even in the Caribbean, and also to large Islamic audiences. And the minister never failed to lift up Master Farah Muhammad and his teacher, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. What can you testify about how, whether it's public, private, in America, outside of America, how the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan lifts up his teacher and Master Farah Muhammad regardless?
Well, the minister is a very unique human being, and his life is not his own. He belongs to God, and he has surrendered completely. But it's not just God in a mystery sense. The minister is what we call a made man. And to understand the minister, to understand his maker, and to understand the process by which he was made. And going into that, we think sometimes that the minister is acting upon his own thoughts. But the real truth is, his thoughts are so aligned with the reality of God and God that it's a direct reflection from God. And he's accepted that. So he's true to himself. And in being true to himself, he's true to his teacher, because him and his teacher is one and the same. And being true to himself and his teacher, that put him in direct alignment with God. And his message does not alter. The beauty of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is that for over the last 60 years, he has not changed in reference to his delivery of the message that he's received from his teacher. And no matter where he goes, he's going to be outstanding in that regards, because he's true to himself. And he was raised in such a way that you can't make him afraid. He feared no one but Allah. So the message that he has is very clear. And that is a message from God. And there's no one that can refute what he's saying based on the principles of truth and mathematics. You may argue based on your understanding, which could be limited based on your teachers. But when a man come before you and say that he was taught by God, then you have to examine the work. And if you see the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan work, they bear witness to the works of his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It's one and the same with an extension where you see it greater, and what you see is a highway being prepared so that God may dwell among men, and we too may follow in the works of God so that God may shine through us.
Thank you, my brother. One of the things that amazed me about the World Friendship Tour is one of the honors that were done on the behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in Nigeria. And it was called a mini Durbar. And from what I understand, this was the 9th one that was done in a 1,000-year history, right? So I would like to ask Brother Haroon, like if you were there when you saw this, like what were your thoughts when you saw the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan being honored in his way and all of these tribal chiefs coming and putting their swords down and spears down before him?
Well, it was really amazing to see that kind of honor and respect bestowed upon the minister. Like I think Brother Sultan mentioned, a prophet is not honored in his own home. But when he went abroad, a lot of those countries, they honored him like a rock star, well, better, more than a rock star. But they showed him deep honor and respect. And when I saw that in Nigeria with the Durbar, it was amazing. It was fascinating. I mean, they came out in all their festive gear, they different colors. They had horses dancing for him, you know, that were well-trained horses. I mean, it was like bowing to the greatness of God in a man. You know, that's what I saw. They were given honor because the minister is a man that speaks the truth and represents the word of God. So for them to give him that honor, they're honoring God. They're honoring a man that's reflecting God. And that's what I saw. And it was like you said, it was only 9 done in 1,000 years. And he was one of the recipients, which was well-deserved and well-due, in my opinion.
Definitely. And looking like we got our brother, he's back. So we're going to go to Brother Hamza. Brother Hamza, the question I was asking you before you started experiencing technical difficulties is, can you testify about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's work ethic while on these tours? You hear me, Brother Hamza? Like he's maybe still.
Yes, sir.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
First of all, I'd like to thank Allah. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can. Wa alaikum salam.
First of all, I'd like to thank Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad by himself and raised a perfect example in the person of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And in turn, he raised a perfect example in the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And his work ethic can only be described as divine. No man or woman works like he does. And he's not one who deviates from what he's been given. And as we worked, he worked tirelessly and he was willing to put his life on the line every time because this was a dangerous trip. And his life was on the line every time. We see the smiles, the cheers, but at the same time, in spite of his pain, he put his life on the line for us. And so that inspired me, and there's not anything I wouldn't do for him. It doesn't matter if I sleep for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. The road with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is beyond what I could even comprehend. And I love him so dearly. We have one of the most beautiful human beings in our midst. And even if he didn't get the honor here in America, and he received the honor around the world, those of us that know him should honor him the way we're supposed to honor him. And my life would never be the same in terms of me being with that beautiful man, that divine man, the Most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And before, I want to ask you another question as well. We talked about, or I showed, there's a picture that brother's going to pull up. This is outside the Grand Anwar Mosque in Ethiopia. And the picture to the right is of you holding the door for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Can you talk about that experience? And you mentioned to me about something that happened with Salim during that time. Can you talk about that experience with the audience?
Yes, sir. What happened was, first of all, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is always on time. So we were limited in terms of transportation that day. So the minister was ready to go, and the transportation from that government wasn't all the way up to par. So we took off, and some of the delegation was left back. And in terms of security, that left Brother Salim and myself. May Allah be pleased with my beautiful brother. And so when we got to the mosque, Brother Salim has a lot more experience in world travel than myself. And of course, I wanted to go in with Brother Salim because it was only two of us on the security detail. And Brother Salim said, no, brother, I need you to stay outside and watch the shoes because they have a tendency to get the shoes and take off with them. And I don't want nothing to happen in terms of the minister's shoes and our shoes, those who did make it. So I stayed outside while Brother Salim went in with the minister. And I befriended the young men that were their little boys, and they helped me secure the shoes. And as Brother Salim and the minister was getting ready to come out, they bomb rushed the minister and dislocated Brother Salim's shoulder. So he got the minister out, and as we put our shoes on, he said, brother, you're gonna have to take over because when they bomb rushed the minister, they dislocated my shoulder and you got to get him to the car. So I just called on Allah and I used all my might and I didn't even entertain anything happened to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. If anything was to happen, it was for me to lose my life, for my beautiful brother. So Allah blessed me to be able to get the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to his vehicle. And as I closed the door, it still was a mob around the minister, around the car. So I stayed with the vehicle and I didn't care if I got back. I know they would send somebody back for me, but I wanted to make sure that the minister got up out of there safely. And by Allah's grace, it happened. And then Brother Sheikh Tajani, I had to give my brother credit. He held up the bus because I didn't care if I returned right then. And he held up the bus for me to make it back along with the detail.
Praise be to Allah. And it's only fitting, since you mentioned Brother Salim and this experience, we want, for those who are there, anybody, just when you want to share, can anybody talk about just briefly some of your fondest moments with our brother Salim while on any of these tours? Anyone? Brother Rashad?
Well, when you speak of Salim, Salim was he was a supreme brother, friend, humble man, serious. Salim trained a lot of us as relates to relating and movement around the minister. For me, Salim was one of my greatest teachers when it came to international travel, because I followed Salim and I understood Salim movement just by watching Salim. And Salim was a person that, no matter where you was at, he was going to get you in and he would get you out. That was his mind. And Salim was a jack of all trades in reference to service. There's nothing that was needed that Salim wouldn't do, no matter how large or small the task. And even as Salim became a more mature man, as we were coming up as young men, just his ability to lower his wings as we were growing to help us to grow. I mean, you won't find a more beautiful human being, and the minister gave him a name based on his service that he did on a tour. And I think it was 86 when Salim got his name. And the minister gave him the name Salim. And he said that everywhere that he went, Salim made friends. And Salim would be the maintainer or the keeper of peace. And that was Salim's way. No matter where you found Salim, whether it was in the streets or in the park, whether it was in the restaurants or whether in the hotels or wherever he would go, whether it be with the security details, you would find Salim making friends. And he was a very beautiful human being and very tender-hearted and misunderstood, but very much was a killer, if you understood. So Salim was a very beautiful, beautiful human being, and I will always have fun memories of Salim and the works that he did. And I look at his life, and Salim is one that, as I studied his life, I took certain principles of his life to add to my life and to make my life and my family life a much better life based on how I seen him as a young Muslim coming up.
Praise be to Allah. We're going to go to Brother Sultan. He wanted to share a comment about our brother Salim.
Yes, sir. Brother Salim was one of the most impressive people that I had met. I ended up, of course, in the suite trying to do some of the things, that he did. But Salim, when he began with him, did everything. Salim would secure him. Salim would drive him. Salim would cook for him. Salim did everything. A very unusual brother. His ability to deal with people and handle people and to watch someone and then find a way to get to that person, to get what was necessary in order to perform this or that or the other that was in fact necessary. A very beautiful brother, very knowledgeable brother. And I mean, Salim could handle almost any situation. And what I think about when I think about him and his janazah, and if I remember correctly, the minister would not, he didn't see Salim that way, so did not need to see Salim at that janazah. But it helped me to understand more about the Quran, when the Quran says that they are not dead, we just don't understand or perceive. And I could see then and began to understand a little more about our perception of death as opposed to our growing knowledge of death and the mathematics of death. Because if everyone was still alive who was ever born who did any good, we'd be stretched out to Pluto. So it is a necessary thing that I believe the first God submitted to, author of life, and then submitted to the mathematics of not being here physically, but being here to this day.
Wow. And so thank you, my brother. We want to get everybody's comments who wants to share about our brother Salim. We're going to go to Brother Tadar next.
Yes. Brother Salim was my first teacher in terms of driving. He taught me dignitary driving. And we was in Arizona one time. And we was in different vehicles. Me and Brother Emil was in a vehicle. And we was headed back to the palace. But Salim, I know a shortcut to the palace. And we arrived there before Brother Salim. And that stuck with Brother Salim. He kept asking Brother Emil years later, how did you get there before me? And another time we was at the mosque there in Phoenix. It was a man being checked and didn't want to be checked. I call him, Art, we have a situation here. And Art said, okay, I'll deal with it. I grabbed him around the waist and checked the man and communicated with him at the same time. And he said, he's good. He had those qualities to communicate with people. And I heard anywhere he went with the minister, it was just him. He was a security man from A to Z. And by the grace of God, I learned a lot about him, and he taught me a lot how to deal with people in general. And I thank Allah for him just being in his presence to learn. And when the keys was given to me, and I moved on, and I called him. He says, "Your time. It's your time now." And I thank Allah for him and his family.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We're going to go to our sister Mary Ellis, and then we'll finish it off with Brother Haroon, and then we'll go into the next question.
I agree with everything my brothers have said. I add all of them together as part of my view of Brother Salim. But one of the things that I want to add to this is that Salim was concerned with everyone, not just the minister was his principal, but the rest of us were just as important. And he had a motto: once I take care of the principal, which is the minister, then I'll get back to you. And rest assured that he will come to your aid. No one was left behind. Salim was very unique. He's a unique individual, and there will never be another Salim. He took care of all of us. All of us was important to him, but the minister was his principal. And that I will never stop thanking Allah for having the honor and the pleasure of meeting and being his friend.
Thank you, sister, for those heartfelt words. And we'll go to our brother Haroon.
I'll have to say, may Allah forever be pleased with Brother Salim. Great brother. In security, I learned the hallmark or the posture of security from former Brother Frank, Brother Ali Muhammad, who was a supreme captain. I learned that from him. The spirit or the fire of security, I learned from the supreme captain, student supreme captain now, Brother Mustafa. He gave the spirit of it. But Salim gave that special touch, that intricate knowledge that I still rely on and call on today from what I've learned from him. He was such a beautiful man, as all of us have said. I mean, he cared for everyone, and he would take time to teach the smallest things that were really big things and teach all of us, or share all of us of his knowledge. I don't think there's ever, or I have never met anyone on the level or the capability as Brother Salim. I mean, he was a soldier, and he was a man. Of course, we all have faults, but he was a man of principle, and he was a man that really did a lot for us in security. We all like sprang forth from him.
Yes, sir.
In truth, we all learned from him. We all like his children. Those of us who were around in these circumstances, we learned from him and we passed it on to others. And now it's like grandchildren and great-grandchildren from the knowledge that Salim has given us. So I'm forever thankful to Allah for that, brother. And may Allah forever be pleased with Brother Salim.
Yes, sir. Thank you, my brother. I want to go to our brother Hamza. In preparation for this interview, we talked about some of the places that you visited with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And you mentioned South Africa. And what stood out about our conversation, you mentioned how passionately you said how you could personally testify in a way that give a testimony that rebuts the enemy's lies about Nelson Mandela scolding the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to share that.
Yes, sir. Well, I was chosen to advance the detail to go to the compound of former President Nelson Mandela, because when we embark upon world travel, we don't have access to a cadre of men. So each one of these men that are witnessing, each one of us had to be equivalent to 10 to 100 FOI. And President Mandela's granddaughter was the head of security on his compound. And it was said that she was very strict in terms of how she ran the compound, and no weapons were allowed. So the security that took me to the compound, they had to stay outside the compound, and I was allowed to go in. But the beauty of it is how the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has made me an FOI. And in terms of the energy that was in me, she had no questions. She didn't ask me for no ID, and she received me warmly. So as Allah blessed me to go through the compound and set things up to receive the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, there was nothing but love on that compound from her and former President Nelson Mandela. He got great honor, love, and respect. And when we heard back in the States, they tried to say that the Honorable Nelson Mandela mocked the minister, called him Louis, or said some kind of crazy condescending type thing. And that never happened nowhere on the tour that we ever visited, and especially there. And it showed how much the media lies, and they don't want us to love and honor and respect this man.
Thank you. I'm gonna go to our brother Sultan, and in our talks as well. You mentioned how in your observing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, this was in Nigeria, I think you said, Brother Sultan, where you talked about how you learned a very important lesson about listening, because there were some men that came to the minister to see if he was able to do anything to help free, I think, a loved one of them that was incarcerated. Can you talk about what you saw and what you learned from that?
Yes, sir. It was actually Abiola who was still imprisoned. He was the former president, and the current president was Abacha, who was a military man. And this particular person, brother, had come to the minister to appeal to him, to make an appeal to Brother Abacha, obviously because the brother thought and felt that this man, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, would have the influence and the integrity to appeal to President Abacha for the release of Abiola. And what I remembered about it, which was so beautiful and instructive, most of the delegation was invited to come into the suite to hear. The minister wanted us to hear brother and his appeal. And for whatever reasons, very wisely, of course, he desired that. So we were there. I'm there. I'm working in the suite, and I remember standing behind something like a bar. Say in a suite, you have a bar where you could sit, and something behind the bar with a fountain and all that, as in any other hotel, of the fine hotels in particular. And so I'm standing there doing whatever I was supposed to do. And the brother started talking. And the brother kept talking. And the brother kept talking. And the brother kept talking. as I remember it, this brother spoke about 3 hours straight. And when brother had finished, several of us had found whatever reason to leave. But the minister never interrupted that man one time until all that he had in him was out in his appeal. I had never watched anyone listen and listen intently like that to anybody. And because he said nothing, well, no one else should have anything to say. But when I noticed our leaving, I had to stay. And when I witnessed how the minister heard that man, it was one of the most impactful things to me, because I'm a person who cut you off. I know what you're going to say. Maybe that's why I was not able to help solve problems that people may have, because we don't listen. You can't help anybody that you don't listen to. And that's why this extraordinary man answers in a way that we many times don't understand. Somebody gets in trouble. Oh, he's going to get him now. Oh, he's going to get her now. All our little personal likes and dislikes, which really, when you consider it, amount to nothing. But he'll say something like, oh, you ever notice how brother does this? Do you ever know how brother does that? And then he said one day, even if it's just one atom of good, focus on that one atom of good. When we, many times, we assassinate each other. We bring up the bad. We bring up the bad. Well, that helps to make me bad if that's all I'm going to hear. But now you point out something that you like about me, and you focus on it. You can help me to be better. And I've watched him with that for now decades. Save people with his listening ear. And that's why I say to him all the time, I don't just thank you for what you've done for me and my family. I thank you for what I have seen you done for others all over the world.
Wow. Thank you, my brother. I think all of us can learn about, even starting with myself, Bella, about listening, man. So thank you. So now we're going to go to our brother Rashad. And I think I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan mention this, what is shown on the screen about Bermuda and it being in the rain. So, Brother Rashad, if you were there, like in the rain, to hear the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, can you share with us anything you remember about that moment?
I remember we got on the island. It was already pretty late. And when we were getting ready to go, it started pouring down. And naturally, coming from America, we're not used to being standing in the rain. That's not something that you just, commonly do. Go to a concert or participate in anything. We just stand outside in drenching rain. And I mean, the rain was coming down, and the call came that the people were still out there waiting on the minister to come. So we mounted up and went, and the people stayed out in the rain. It must have been over an hour. And at certain times, it was pouring down, drenching, as it relates to rain coming down. But one of the things about when you speak of the islands and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I kind of understand when it's mentioned about his love for the island and his love for the American people, because it's like they receive him. There's not an island that you go to that don't receive him as a child of their own. They all receive him and embrace him as such. And to see them waiting in the rain under the conditions. And I mean, they wasn't going anywhere. And it wasn't like a lot of them had umbrellas. And if you could, as you can see, the video, the wind was blowing and rain was coming up under the top of where he was speaking, but the people stayed out there in the rain. And when it lightened up, they were good. And when it was pouring hard, they were good. But the people of the islands, of the Caribbean, have great love for the minister. You know, and that's what I find just about everywhere we have gone, that he transcends borders. You know, and speaking of Brother Salim, I would say that Salim had a part of the minister, being with him so long. And I would say that would be called brother love. If you want to sum Salim up and say, well, who is he? You could say, well, that's brother love. But his love was a reflection of what I would believe that he witnessed and got being around the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So, you know, everywhere we went, man. And it was mind blowing, you know. And the first time that we was on the island, you know, the island was beautiful. I had never seen an island so clean. I'm like, I had never seen a city so clean. You know, it was like immaculate. And from the time we arrived into the airport until we got at the hotel, until he arrived at the arena, the people received him well, very well.
Thank you, my brother. So the next, I want to go to our brother Tadar. We talked about this, and Brother Tadar, the picture that is up is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan with the late Palestinian leader Arafat. And you know, there was a whole bunch of controversy about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan potentially going to Israel and stuff like that. Can you talk about the minister's visit to Palestine and meeting with Arafat?
We was in Jordan, and the minister said, we going to Palestine, and we're going to have to go through Israel security in order to get to Palestine. So he asked each and every one of the security team and delegation. It was danger. We may not come back, but if you want to go, why you want to go. If you didn't want to go, tell me why. You could stay back and enjoy. And we all expounded on that. And we all went through the security of Israel and on to Palestine, just to see the people, the Palestinian people, and how Israel was treating them in terms of searching them and that nature. And we went on down, we went to his office, and they went up. I stayed down with the soldiers. And he had sent, I think, Sadiq, former brother Melvin, to come up, to tell us to come up. The one was downstairs, to sit at the table, at the conference table with Arafat and Minister Farrakhan and President Arafat's security, just to hear that, what they were discussing, and be privileged to be there in Palestinian. It brought memories back to me when I was growing up as a child in Mississippi as a sharecropper, how the people was being treated. And it was an honor and a pleasure to be there, to hear the minister and him converse about the situations of the world and the Palestinian people and Israel. It was an awesome experience for me. It will always be with me, that situation. I thank Almighty God Allah for that.
Wow. Thank you. I want to go to our Sister Mary Alice. Sister Mary Alice, as I was preparing for this, Brother Abdul Qiyam, formerly Brother Jesse, said, make sure you ask Sister Mary Alice this question. It was talking about you. It was I guess this is one of the later tours where the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was visiting Haiti after the earthquake. Can you share what you observed and the impact that it had on you?
Brother, this is the, I humbly submit that this was actually what gave me wings between my wings. I felt free. That experience have changed my life exponentially. I know how people are in Haiti because I was born and raised there. Very staunch Catholics, set in their ways. And to see the magnitude of the minister, I knew then, and I've always prayed for it, that Allah will bless the minister to see the shores of Haiti and help, because I believe in what was said. Islam comes after everything else failed. And Haiti have had many religions, but yet we're still in the condition that we are. And I knew that the minister's presence in the country will make a world of a difference. And it did. But to see how he was received and how he was treated, I shared that with Brother Rashad. I said, with the song that R. Kelly has, that I believe I can fly. That's how much that trip impacted me. That day I felt really free, because I felt that Allah has answered the plight of the Haitian people through his servant, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because the reception was awesome. And I felt that Allah did not forget us, because for the longest time, I thought we were forgotten. And to actually witness the minister on the shores of Haiti, making the impact wherever he went, the people, even though there was a language barrier, he did have an excellent translator in Brother Joseph McIndow, but we're not quick to answer any questions. And to see, as the minister is speaking, the Spirit of Allah displaying, coming through him, and how it impacted the people. After that first day, everyone kept coming, and they would try to get the explanation, trying to get the translation. But however the minister was speaking, it was beyond words, beyond translation. They felt his spirit. Even the people that practice voodoo were bowing before the minister. So to me, that trip impacted me the most out of all the places that the minister's been. Not because I'm from Haiti, but to see that there's no language barrier when it comes to the Spirit of Allah. And when the Spirit of Allah is present, there's only one universal language, one universal spirit. And that's what I witnessed in Haiti.
Be to Allah.
Awesome.
Sister said, speaking multitudes. And that's one of the benefits of these testimonies, because hearing you all and you all giving firsthand witnesses. Now, for those of us who want to understand the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan better, we can open the scriptures and now connect what you said to what is actually in the scripture. So we want to go to our brother Rashad. He wanted to add on to something that he saw, testifying about the minister with Arafat.
Well, one of the things that we can't scurry over is the seriousness and the real danger, imminent danger, being in Israel. Especially the minister during that time had already been in battle with them for over 20 years with certain members of the Jewish community. So when we got into Jordan and it was made known that we were coming into Israel, that was a big to-do about Farrakhan coming into Israel. And they were scurrying, trying to meet to see how to handle Farrakhan's arrival in Israel. And naturally, when we went to Israel, we were not going necessarily to Israel. We were going to Palestine to be with the Muslims in Palestine. But we also wanted to go visit the Dome of the Rock, which is one of the second holiest cities to the Muslims, you know, the Dome. And, you know, one of the things that I must say about the minister, in the face of the danger and fear, when I looked at him as he made the decision not to go to the Dome to pray, it was and Sultan will tell you more about the Abona Sheikh, but the Abona Sheikh told the minister that whenever he wanted to go to the Dome, and if he wanted to go anywhere in the world to go, that God was with him, and that anywhere he wanted to go, that, you know, that he would be protected, and God would send, you know, angels to surround him, and so on and so forth. But when the minister made the decision not to go into Israel to pray at the Dome, I don't think he was thinking of himself.
Mm-hmm.
As I looked into his face, he looked at us, and he thought of the harm that could come to us. And that was what led to his decision not to go pray at the Dome, because he knew that the Jews could be very vicious, and that they are not necessarily charged when they attack someone else in their homeland that is not a Jew.
Mm.
So him knowing and understanding the dynamics of that, and his love for us in the delegation, even though he asked us and told us of the nature and the danger that we would face, I think when he ultimately made the decision, that his decision was made for the love of us. And the same thing happened in Chechnya. He made a decision not to go to Chechnya when we was in Dagestan for the love of the believers, and he didn't want to see the loss of life. But it's a testament to his heart and character that a lot of times, even when you have to make the choice, the hard decisions, the decisions are not made about how it would affect him, but it's made up basically by how it would affect us, and how, you know, how he would handle that. Naturally, he know God is with him, but I think that he don't want and didn't want to see any harm come to us, and he knew the potential of that, and he didn't want to put us in harm's way, even though we were willing to give our lives. But I just want to say that.
Those words, and this is a good segue into our question to Brother Sultan. Brother Sultan, when we talked about the picture show up with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan shaking Fidel Castro's hand. And I know that when I interviewed you a couple of weeks ago, that we showed the picture with you shaking Brother Fidel Castro's hand. But you in our conversation, you brought up a very interesting point where you talked about the impact of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on Fidel Castro, a man who felt like religion is the opiate of the masses. He kind of agreed with that. Can you talk about that?
Yes, sir. You know, it was one of the very interesting things about him. He's a very overwhelming man, very overwhelming brother, because you can see that he's one who has been full for a very long time. Now, he saw religion as an opiate, although that was a mosque there. And of course, that was a Catholic church that was there. But he did not push religion at all. And it was so not strange, but significant when we were being escorted on a tour. And the man who escorted us said something that was obviously most unusual for him. And he said that from his meeting, the minister, that Brother Fidel said, he's a prophet. Here's a man who does not conscribe really to religion at all, but he conscribed to his nature, because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that he was the best sign of Jesus in that country because of what he does for the people. And his works were the works of Jesus. So here's a man who does not believe in the religion as the opiate that it is, who says after just his association with him, the time that he had spent with him, for him to say after I don't know how many years, he's a prophet. And then for the minister to later answer that he was the best example of Jesus for the people there, really anywhere, because he's doing Jesus. He's not talking Jesus. So I wanted to say something else though also with respect to our visit to Palestine, as of course Israel is called Israel. We were to go somewhere on December 14th, as I remember. But because of whatever happened, the minister decided that we would go on December 14th. I think I'm correct, and the reason why I remember is this. Now, I was dealing with the passports. So when I went to take the passports up and we were dealing with the people, we have U.S. passports. So U.S. passports, you know, you go anywhere you want to go. And the woman wanted to delay. She said, well, let's hold. Remember now, the minister made the decision to come. Actually, we were a month early. The woman was trying to make contact with somebody whom we later found out they were trying to contact Netanyahu to find out whether or not we could come in or how they should handle us or whatever. They couldn't get Netanyahu. They couldn't find him. They couldn't reach him to get instructions about what to do. And I'm looking at how the God had led the minister in that regard. And then when we're in Ramallah, which is now has been taken over by the Israelis, they're starting to build settlements in Ramallah. The minister was taken to a restaurant first after we come in. They couldn't reach Netanyahu. Okay, fine. Okay, here we are. And we go to a restaurant in Ramallah where the minister, we have a meal, and when we get ready to come out, you saw at least 50, we have a picture, long, with mics on the end, with the long poles with the mics. It's about 50 reporters or more that's right there with their mics to get the minister when he comes out. So everyone then knew that the minister was there. Now the government is not angry as all get up because this man is in Ramallah. The man has already spoken words, and there are over 50 reporters or so that were out there in that gathering. Now we go to the West Bank, to Gaza, where we meet with Arafat, where the minister meets with Arafat. And when we got on that bus to leave, and the radio was on, you heard all this crazy talk. How did Farrakhan get in here? How did this happen? How did that happen? Well, whoever did it, they got to do this and they got to have to do that. They're going to have to deal with this and deal with that. And we're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to do the other. They went mad. However, you know who is God.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for that. And we're going to go to Brother Haroon. He wants to share something about the whole Arafat and Palestinian visit as well. Then after that, we'll come to our brother Hamza.
It was basically what everybody said. It was a wealthy experience, and I agree with Brother Rashad on the trip to the Dome of the Rock. I believe the minister held back from going because he thought about us. And he didn't want us to lose our lives going there, because he did say that some of the prophets were stoned to death going through Israel. And he didn't want it to happen to us on that tour. And the minister is that type of a man. He looks out for the whole, you know, even if it sometimes means that he has to put off what he wants, he'll look out for the whole. And thinking about Rashad, I reflected on something that the minister mentioned about me and Rashad as young men, how he would see us holding posts around his house, security, and he would say a prayer for us because he didn't want anything to happen to us, even though he knew we was willing to handle any situation and possibly give our lives in doing so. But he prayed for us that Allah would protect us. When we thought he was protecting him, he was praying that we was being protected. So I understand that point, that he looks out for those who he loves, and that he didn't want anything to happen as far as that trip to the Dome of the Rock going through Jerusalem. And that's basically what I have to say about that part of the trip. And basically, bearing witness with what Brother Tala said, that we were called up to be in that room and to see Arafat, you know, Chairman Arafat, he said his name correctly, and see how he respected and loved the minister. I mean, it was awesome. You know, they all bear witness to the minister and seek his counsel. You know, even the greatest kings and rulers seek this man, this little black man from America that was raised by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They all want to know what he has to say. You know, they want to drink from his wisdom. And me, growing up in Chicago, a little brother from the south side of Chicago, to be honored that he would allow me to go with him to travel and see these things. I mean, it's mind blowing, and it's just awesome, and that just testifies to the love for the black man.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. And we're gonna go to our brother Hamza. One of the countries that was visited during one of the tours was Australia, and we know that Australia is also the home of some of what is known as the Aborigines, right? And in our talking, and then I also researched after you and I had a conversation, you talked in the article, it talked about how the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was welcomed by thousands that were waiting at the mosque. And they said that there were several other thousands that were lined up on the street awaiting his arrival to come and speak at the mosque. And it was said that the minister still took time to visit. There was a neighborhood that was called Redfern, or is known as a slum neighborhood, and according to them, in Australia as the Block. Can you share about that, the minister's visit to that neighborhood?
Yes, sir. Myself and the great brother Sadiq, formerly known as Brother Melvin, we advanced that detail, and they found out where that neighborhood was. So Brother Sadiq and I was to go in advance and let the people know that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan wanted to speak with them. And we were to find a place for the minister to speak. So therefore, we went door to door, spoke to the people, and they were excited. And Brother Sadiq and I came upon a brother that was in the Olympics as a martial artist. And he had put a gym in the hood for the people in the hood to come to. So Brother Sadiq impressed upon the brother and told him about the minister wanting to speak to the people, and could we use his gym? And at first the brother didn't want to do it. But as you know, for FOI, there are no excuses. So Brother Sadiq continued to impress upon the brother about the minister and explain to him who he was. And the brother relented. So he said he would allow us to speak in his gym, the minister, that is. And so we set it up, and Allah blessed the minister to come and speak to the people. And I didn't go inside because I had the outer perimeter. And I was standing next to one of the imams, Muslim imams from the East. And he said to me, he said, "Brother, I ain't never came to no place like this. I don't have no reason to come. I said, wow. I said, this is what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan does all over America and the world. He looks out for the downtrodden. Islam is supposed to be all about. And here it is, a little baby brother like me talking to this imam. And he said, wow. He said, I never thought of it like that. And the minister spoke to the people and they loved him. They received him and it was overwhelming. We have a most beautiful man, and the minister does not forget the downtrodden. He does not change, and he's always on his mission, never stopping regardless of the obstacles.
Beautiful. Thank you, brother, for that testimony. And what's beautiful about that, even like you said, in America, he's going into those neighborhoods that are written off. And even in Australia, he was doing the same thing. I want to go to Brother Sultan, and you're going to see on the screen, Brother Sultan, it has a compilation of, these are just some of the few honors and gifts that were given to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And my question I want to ask to you is the overall significance. I know we can't talk about each one, but what from your perspective, what do you see as the overall significance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan being bestowed these very important traditional items and relics and, all of these honors? Like, what do you see as the overall significance to that as it relates to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan?
The first word that comes to mind is universal. It allowed us and the world to see that obviously the God is in this man. I think I said something a little earlier, who had not traveled to these places, as a young boy, or come up in these places or whatever, like us, born here in America. How could he speak a language that's understood regardless to where he may be, and the people respond like they respond? It could only be speaking to the very nature of the people. And it is a proof for us and a help to us to see that he is, in fact, who we are coming to see that he is, and more. We see him here in Dagestan with white Muslims. These were the only ones who had a crescent in the same phase as we did, which was in the first quarter, a new beginning. These Muslims, if you ask those of us who were there, we would say that these were some of the best Muslims that we met, these white-skinned Muslims. It was as if they were waiting for us. And if you heard what the minister later says about the mother, it is from that area that he was talking about. I had never felt a white person, not even the white Arabs in Islam. But when that man Nada hugged me, after I finally was able to get back to the delegation, because the Russian intelligence had me. But once I got to the detail, and Brother Akbar introduced me to this man, I know that I had seen the officer, whomever he was, that was at the head of the table when I was supposed to be interrogated, and the way God handled that. But I saw this man turn from one of confidence that when he was talking to whoever he was talking to on the phone, I watched this man turn yellow maybe a few other colors, right in front of me. I wondered, who is he talking to? Then he gives me the phone. He tells me to give the phone to the translator and the things that we went through. But once I was there at the compound, finally with our delegation, and this man hugged me, I felt him. In that place, there was a young boy at the lieutenant governor's son. I think he was about 6 years old. And his daughter, who was, I believe, 10, had a few years ago won the recitation for the Quran for those up to 15 years old. And I think she was only about 6 at the time. And I remembered what the minister said. He said, "What kind of mother does she have?" But the little boy, who was at 6 years old, there was a picture on the wall of the lieutenant governor's, I think it was his great-grandfather. He's sitting on a white horse with that long Angora coat, one of which they gave to the minister, and his high Russian hat. And he's sitting on the horse with a sword drawn. The picture's life-size. Well, it was a very big picture. And they asked the minister, after having given him one of many swords that he was given, not just there, not just in other places, but even in Nigeria and other places, what is this thing about the sword that they have heard in all these centuries leading up until today? But they asked the minister to stand in front of the picture, and the minister did. They had given the minister a sword, and they asked the minister if he would pull the sword like that from the sheath. The minister said, "I cannot pull the sword."
Wow.
"I cannot pull the sword." He said, "But I will hold it." And he did. Then the little 6-year-old, Brother Olive, Maria's husband, he was one of the filmographers. And so, he was getting it on film. And the little boy came and stood at parade rest. I mean, he came and stood in front of the minister hard. I mean, like, you noticed his presence and the way he did it. And so Brother Olive said, "Well, son, could you..." That brother had to look like Brother Olive. Like, Brother Olive said, okay.
6 years old.
Standing to secure this 6-year-old. Standing like a grown man to secure that man behind him.
Praise be to Allah. Wow, man, that's powerful. Very, very, very powerful. And thank you for that. That was a new story. I didn't hear that one, but that's the beauty of these testimonies. I want to go to this next slide. And many of us, if we've heard our brother Sultan on numerous interviews, also online and even publicly in national or Chicago, where he talks about, and he did an excellent interview. Now I encourage all of you all to go and read this interview. It's located on finalcall.com. And he talked about the significance and all what went on as it relates to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan meeting with the Abana Sheikh. And I want to go at this question in a kind of like a different way. I'll start with Brother Rashad, but it's free to all. We've heard Brother Sultan talk about the significance of this meeting, but from you all who also, I don't know, you may have not been a part of this trip, but you have learned about the meeting. And we'll start with Brother Rashad. What do you all see as the significance of the Abana Sheikh with his high level of respect for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, his words, and even giving the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan his cloak and his staff?
Well, in short, I would say that it reminds me of when they talk about Muhammad returning to Mecca at the head of 10,000, or the story about, I don't know exactly who it was, but returning at the head of 10,000. And I think that, you know, when it comes to the reality of Islam, they recognize the rise of Islam in the West. They recognize the rise of the nation and what the Honorable Muhammad has taught. And they know that it's just a matter of time before we come to the forefront. And there are those that want to honor our movement and ushering in our welcome as the leader of a new world. And I think that, you know, as a man of stature, a man that is revered, a man that is respected, a man that knows scriptures and understand the time and recognize, a man that never laid eyes on the minister, but now that he sees him, say, I pray for you, you know, 500 times a day. You know, I think that within itself is a testimony or a great testament to the minister and his works and what he has done as he's traveled throughout the world. And when you talk about going into Mecca, you know, it's something to go into the holy city where everyone focuses their attention in reference to the service of God. But when the minister came, how they all recognized him and spoke of him coming to their countries and how much he meant to them. To me, it's phenomenal, and it goes without saying. Just to swear, if you don't mind, I'd like to just go away from that for a moment, and you can pick it back up with the other brothers, and I'm quite sure they'll give you a greater testament as relates to the Abona Sheikh. But one of the things that come to my mind is Ghana right now. And I don't mean to take off course, but I'm thinking about Ghana, and I thought about President Rawlings. And when you show the gifts of those in different parts of the world that was presenting the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan with various gifts. And as I looked at it and I thought about it, the minister said that one of the greatest gifts that he received was the goat in Mali, because the goat was a sacrifice and an offering of life so that others may have life. And some of the others can go into that.
Yeah.
What he said on that. But the thing that came to my mind was Ghana, because that was the first trip that I had ever taken internationally. For me, one of the greatest gifts that was given to the minister and is reflective is Ghana opened up. Once the president became more familiar with the minister and his message, he opened up the whole country to the minister and his message. And that is the great late President J.J. Rollins.
Yes, sir.
As a soldier, who I honor and offer debt of gratitude and thanksgiving for his life, because to me, he and the Ghanaian people reflected the mind of someone receiving the mind or the messenger of God. And I say because I would think that based on his relationship with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he was able to navigate Ghana to his independence and to a place where they have the greatest stability amongst the African nations. And he's now being mentioned as one of the great fathers of their nation. But I think that it also has to do with his relationship with his friend, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I think that him opening up the country of Ghana, also, we don't even understand the effects of what this man has taught and teach, and how it goes down into the actual DNA of the human being, and later develop and come back out. And you see people acting a way, and they don't even know the origin of it, but it's God acting through men.
Yes, sir.
Something deep within their souls that allows it to be released years later. And I think that Ghana is a product of their friendship and their willingness to recognize God. And
yes,
that's what I think that President Rawlings was able to do.
Appreciate that. And Sister Mary Ellis, I want to delve some more on this Abona Sheikh. From your perspective, what do you see as the significance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan being shown that great respect? And how he said that he prayed for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan a numerous amount of times every day. And as Brother Rashad mentioned, where he sent word to the minister wherever he wanted to go in the world go? Like, what do you see in the significance of that?
I see it as the minister is giving mass. His whole life giving mass to God came in a person. Destroy the mystery, the myth that God is a mystery, God is a spirit. And to see that happen, to see the Aboniship giving him his cloak and all, that's giving him, showing to the world who this man is, that he is God's representation, his Khalifa, his return. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad personally taught this man, but what he gave him was his spirit, and that spirit is in a form of a human being, and that's what I see the Aboniship telling us through his studies, what Allah has revealed to him, who this man is in our midst, that he's unique. Once Brother Jabril asked me, do you think a man like Farrakhan was born for this or is made for this? And I didn't even give it a thought. I said he was born for this. Means that he was chosen by God himself. And the example that's just a small example that the Aboniship given to us, all of us, the world, and especially us Muslims, that who this man is, that all of Allah's spirit is in the embodiment of this man. That's what I see it as.
One more comment, brother Harun. What are your thoughts about? Let me stop, because I have another question for Brother Harun and Brother Sultan. Brother Hamza, what are your thoughts about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's meeting with the Aboniship?
Well, for me, it's something that's being shown to us that we should already know. But Allah, God backs him, and backs him in a manner from all different aspects of life. And by us going on this world tour, that was one of the highlights of Allah anointing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for being diligent and on his post, never relenting. And also, too, it is an example and a sign for us, the believers that say we follow him, that Allah has great rewards for us as well. Because the minister didn't go just only for himself. He was bringing us to represent the Nation of Islam, to introduce us to the world. And that's friendship in all walks of life. And he's the embodiment of the universal teachings. And now it's time for us to bear witness and to get behind him and follow him the way we should follow him, include starting with myself.
Praise be to Allah. So many people ask this question. I'm gonna start with Brother Harun, and then Brother Sultan, you can add in. When we talk about the attempt that was made on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the delegation's life with the airplane, and about this passenger that was allowed to come on, and can you talk about that?
Well, to my recollection, we were in Moscow, I believe, yeah, and we were going to travel to Siberia and then on to Dagestan, and that was forgot their titles, but they were from Moscow, some Muslims who were part of our host, and I believe they wanted to go with us on the trip on our plane, and it was like a little controversy of them being able to go on a plane with us, but the final say came from the minister to let them come on the plane, and they came on the plane, and they were traveling with us to these places. But when we were going to Dagestan, I believe the international language for air traffic control is English. Yes, sir. And the pilot encountered the air traffic controllers who were giving him the coordinates to land our plane. They were speaking Russian instead of English. And the pilot we had, he didn't speak Russian. He didn't know what was going on. And I think he saw the mountains as he approached them. Like the coordinates they gave him was driving us toward the mountain. And he pulled the plane up to avoid crashing into the mountains. And, you know, everybody in the plane, most of us were asleep because it was late at night. But because of that sudden jerk in motion, you know, it woke us up. It got our attention like, whoa, you know, what's going on? Plane crashing? What's going on? So unaware to the, so he was going to make another approach to land, but unaware to the air traffic controllers, we had people on the plane that spoke Russian, which Allah had put them there, I believe. And they translated the coordinates that they were giving the pilot to land, but in translating them so that he could understand them, they still were flawed. They were wrong. They were trying to crash us again. So again, he avoided the mountains, you know, just barely avoided the mountains of us crashing into them. And he started to reapproach our landing, but he wasn't going to listen to them this time. He was going to try to find the runway on his own. And thanks to Allah, our host, the delegation in Dagestan, had parked their vehicles on the runway facing each other and with their headlights on, because it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And he saw the headlights, which gave him a distinct vision of where the runway was. And that's when he made his approach. And by Allah's grace, he was able to land that plane based on what he saw from them. The delegation from Dagestan, who was waiting to receive us, and they had been waiting for a while. In that video clip with him getting the cloak and the hat and the sword, that was that delegation from Dagestan that gave us all that. They were waiting just to deliver those gifts to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. They did sword dances, you know, where they were fighting with swords, and it was beautiful reception. But yes, they tried to crash our plane, brother. They really did. They didn't want us to complete that tour. And we had problems in Russia the whole time. But yes, sir, that's my account.
Okay, so we're going to go to Brother Sultan. Then we're going to hear Tadar wants to talk about this experience as well. Then I have another question for him. So go ahead, Brother Sultan.
I was not in the plane. I was not on the plane with them. I was left in Moscow, which is why I think of course, I had the other experiences later on.
Yeah.
Being taken by the Russian intelligence. However, I have to say, I've loved hearing this story over and over and over again. And if you listen to what Brother Haroon said, after the attempts to land from the ground, those who were there waiting for the minister, and they thought the minister, I think it was supposed to have been there maybe somewhere around 12 or before 12, and it's now 3 o'clock in the morning. But they lined their cars up. Listen to what, and you got to hear where the God is in it. They lined the cars up with their lights facing each other so that they could light up whatever part of that runway that they could. The plane lands. But when you look at the exuberance and the joy and the demonstration that they gave at 3 o'clock in the morning, that was a thing that fascinated me. They waited this is early 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. They still wanted to perform for him. And later, the next day, there was a parade that you saw for him. And in Chechnya, they had prepared an even bigger celebration of him. But the situation with Chechnya, remember now, Chechnya is a place where the Russian soldiers, 250,000 had been sent into Chechnya. And they went in to take over Chechnya. And when they got into the city, where were the people? You know, where was the soldiers? Where was the fighting? And then once, I guess, they relaxed, out of the mountain come those Chechen Muslims. And they have literally been fighting in that area, all of them, for decades against the Muslims. Russia against the Muslims in Chechnya, in Dagestan, in that area. Out of the mountain comes just 20,000. Descending upon 250,000. And what does the Quran say? And put them to flight. Led by that brother that you see in our first international conference, and that we held at the downtown Hilton Hotel. And on the video, he's got his hand on his knee like this, that big, tall Russian hat. He's all the way down on the end. The minister's there speaking, and he's like this. You see him looking at the minister. I'm telling you that for this reason. And Brother Haroon can help me with this. When the minister left, they gave us hell in Russia, charged us a lot of money for visas, did all kinds of stuff. They wanted the minister out of Russia. Because in that one speech that he had given there in Moscow, which I did not hear, they were, get him out. So in that way that they were actually handling us, the minister wanted the minister to come to Chechnya. And the minister said, well, no, it was not good at the time because of what was going on, because they were very serious. They were not playing. And when they got there, in the exchange, okay, so the minister is celebrated, we leave. We're back here in America. That was a conference, international conference down in Washington, D.C., and Nada and all of his crew came to see, so they thought, the minister. And when they got to D.C. and found out that the minister was not there at that conference, they got on a plane and came to Chicago. When they came to Chicago, it was on a Sunday, the minister had just finished speaking, so the minister asked us to take them to, I think we took them to around the Shedd Aquarium and all that, to the sites, to give them something to see until he could see them. And somebody asked, I think Brother Haroon will know, about something about the cars. And Nada said, cars, cars no more.
Wow.
And then he says, and then we were, I remember we were in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I told the minister that I'd heard something on the radio from NPR about something going on in Dagestan. Okay, now let's come back forward to that point. So he says, when he was asked about the cars, he said, cars no more. When the minister leaves, we take heads for 15 days. We take the city and then we give it back.
Wow. All because of their mistreatment of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, huh? Wow. Thank you, brother, for sharing that. And I know Brother Tadar wants to talk about that as well. And then I have another question for you, Brother Tadar.
Brother Sultan is exactly correct. Like about 3 a.m. in the morning, and the pilot's name was Brother Iqbal. And I'm sitting in the center of the plane, and he pulled the throttle back right. The plane looked like they're going around the mountain. I had my shoes off and put them on and ran up to the cockpit. And sit there with the pilot and the co-pilot. And like Brother Arun said, they parked the vehicles facing one another. And Brother Iqbal brought that plane in between those vehicles and landed that plane. And it was just amazing how he navigated that plane under those adverse situations. To sit there and see that in his co-pilot, Brother Iqbal. And we taxied to our host, and then we deplaned, and the rest is history.
Wow. All praises due to Allah. Now we want to go. I should have asked this when we brought up our brother, whose pictures up. We see the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan with him now on this. I want to ask you. You had also the interaction with, because after the minister met with Nelson Mandela, he also had a visit with Winnie Mandela. Can you talk about that?
Yes, sir. We were staying downtown at the Carson Hotel in South Johannesburg. And she came down to the hotel, and after the meeting with the minister, she came and took some photos with us, the security, on her security. And it was an amazing experience. And Mother Khadija and the sisters went over to her home, and I was privileged to go. And living where she was living is just like it was by a landfill, just like here in Chicago on 130th Street and off of the Bishop Ford. And just to see that and compare it to here in America. And with that, the people in Argyle Garden here in Chicago came up with cancer because of the chemicals that were leaking into the water table underneath the ground. The same situation is taking place all over the world with people of color. And to be at a home with Mother Khadija's, Mother Tanetta, and Sister Karima Muhammad, Mother Khadija's security. It was an awesome experience to see her movie and his movie of the President Mandela and see what they put Sister Winnie Mandela through based on watching the movie and to be with her.
Mm-hmm.
And she kept the movement alive while her husband was jailed over 20 some odd years.
Mm-hmm.
The freedom and justice of her people. Just to see that, man, that related to me back when I was down home in Mississippi. Brother, by the experience that, I'm gonna digress. When we land there and at the airport in South Africa, we deplaned. There was a man outside in chains. He was letting us know it's nothing have changed. Everything is the same. That was amazing also.
Wow.
I thank God. I thank Almighty God and the minister to be privileged to go on that tour and be with my brothers, all of them, and sisters, because we faced a lot of danger. Only Allah's know, and the minister, some assassination attempts, but which we didn't know anything about. So we kept the faith and followed the instruction of our leader. And wherever he went, we went. He said one significant thing. He said, I follow in the footprints of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and you all following my footprints. That's like Brother Ram said earlier. And
Wherever
when
he says
go,
go.
we go.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I'm gonna go. We all have a few more questions, brothers, and I thank you, brothers and sisters, and even for our audience who's been attentive. This is the largest viewing I've ever had on I Have a Testimony. So I want to go to our sister Mary Alice. So Sister Mary Alice, Brother Sultan told me to ask you this question. I think he told me, you mentioned about how Brother Joseph Mackendal, I think it was Brother Sultan, how Joseph Mackendal served as a translator for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, but I was told that you also doing some portion of the tour where you were translating. Can you talk about just that experience?
Yes, sir. It was in Mali. There was a special delegation that was orchestrated by our dear brother Gaddafi, late Gaddafi, to Timbuktu. And there, in that part of Africa, they speak French. They have other dialects, but the main language is French, the official language. And the minister, of course, was there. And at the airport, they could not assist them properly. And when I noticed that he was not being handled properly, because of the language barrier, the people didn't know who he is, and at that time, they wanted to have the minister put in a general population, which was at the airport, which was very hot, extremely hot. And the minister at that time was going through excruciating pain. That was just before his operation. And the people, the officials, thought he was just another important person, but they didn't know the level of his importance. And I asked Brother Akbar to please excuse me, but I need to say something. And when I began to talk to them, and they directed that we should be in that general area, and I'll explain to them the minister's condition, and they still didn't agree with it. So then that's when I went on. I said, Brother Akbar, I really need to step in because they're not understanding what you're saying. So I began to talk to them about the minister, his level of importance, his connection with the
Testify.
yes, testified of how he is, who he is in their midst, and they began to listen. And as they began to listen, then I started ordering them by the grace of Allah. I know Allah had taken over me at that point. I ordered them to have a better place for the minister to stay. And that's when they directed me to the special lounge that is only made there for heads of state. So I
Go ahead.
explained to them he is more than heads of state. So he has first priority to this room than anybody else. And they're saying they didn't have the key. I told them, I directed them to make sure they take me to the person who's in charge of the key. We need the key because His Excellency needs to be in there. And a long story short, Allah had then taken over me, and I acted other than myself, acted like I was in charge. And they began calling me Madam Protocol because they felt as though I was in high places. And I went and spoke to the person who was in charge. And they, from that point on, anything that they wanted of the minister, they asked me. And when all heads of states come through the airport, they came to me first. And I thank Allah that He blessed me in such a way that I will never forget. To be able, because at that point, all I was thinking about wasn't my life. And these were men with serious ammunition, with guns and AK-47. They were ready, because in Africa, our people, they don't play. When they're on post, they'll shoot you and drag you out. And at that point, I didn't see any danger. All I saw was the minister was in pain, and he need to be attended to in the best manner. And Allah took over me, and I put away the chef hat, as brother said to me, Brother Akbar and Brother Leonard. They said I throw away my chef hats and put on a soldier's hat, because at that point, minister's health and well-being was the most important to me, not my life.
Praise
And
Allah.
everybody started, and throughout the airport, through info, everybody kept coming to me to translate, to share what they had to share with the minister.
Praise. Now, two scriptures came to mind. It says, by the blood of the Lamb and the power of their testimony, Satan was defeated. And as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan always quotes this scripture when he teaches Moses, he says, perfect love casts out fear. So we thank you. And I want to go to this part, and we'll have others who may want to come and share this. If brother can go to the screen, these last three questions. This is with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, when he talked about how, while he didn't participate in the political election the second time in America with President Barack Obama, and I think not with Hillary Clinton, he said, they killed my brother. So this is pretty much open to the panel. Is there anything that you all can, of course, succinctly share about just the travels to Libya? Go ahead, Brother Sultan.
Yes, sir. I'd like to say, first of all, that Minister Farrakhan was one of the most well-known non-Libyans in the country. And that when I know I was going to the different places there, you use the minister's name. You say the minister's name, somebody around knows who Minister Farrakhan is and knows something about Minister Farrakhan. But it was the wonderful work, that he did, and the wonderful way in which he, again, expressed himself. And so where delegations from around the world, we were in one meeting, I wanted to bring a picture too, where we're sitting at a conference, and I think this is 2009. We're sitting in a conference room with maybe 400 or 500 seats. And the minister is the deputy. Now look at this. We, I guess formally would say, we don't have land. So the deputy to Brother Muammar Gaddafi, you could say, is a man that does not have a territory. But merely by the fact he's made the deputy to another 400 who do have territory would seem to indicate that there must be something about territory that means more than just land. But it is the influence in the land. He carries with him the power of Almighty God, which can easily be seen, especially by those who, as I said earlier, who had been introduced or who have known the Quran or who have lived so-called the life of a Muslim. But this man is not just seen as that. When we were trying to get out of Timbuktu, which was very difficult, we were there for a long time, and just delegation after delegation after delegation come to speak with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. All the time we were there, just delegation after delegation coming to see him at the airport. We were sitting at the airport waiting. And so when you have that kind of wisdom, and then when he would speak, these imams, again, from all over the world, are sitting there and listening to him intently, recognizing him, and then responding to him. And these are the imams coming from and sheikhs coming from other countries. Your man from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad who only had a third grade education, but they don't talk publicly about what he taught in science. They don't talk about what he talked about in math. They don't talk about what he talked about in all the different sciences. Astronomy, the Earth weighs 6 sextillion tons, a unit followed by 21 cycles. Why don't they talk about that from this man who only had a third grade education? And then we can prove now how they're changing their figures to match his figures.
Powerful.
Why don't they talk about that aspect of Elijah Muhammad?
Yes,
because if you do, you'll grow much quickly and much more quickly to see not only who the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is, but who, of course, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is, and it's too late.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And we're gonna that question, would you say who he is? That's gonna be one of the closing out questions. Does anybody else wanted to share anything about the Gaddafi visits? Go ahead, Brother Rashad.
I would say, in truth, if we go to the history of the Nation of Islam, the Nation of Islam do owe a debt of gratitude to brother leader Muammar Gaddafi, our late brother leader Muammar Gaddafi, and his attempt to help and serve the nation of Islam under all of the stress and pressure that came with that. You know, there are 3 countries that reminded me very much of the Nation of Islam. And I'll share with you why, and then also go back a little bit about Russia. First and foremost, it was Libya. The thing that reminded me of the Nation of Islam in Libya was the love for their leader, the love for brotherhood, their love for their country, their flag, their people. And then it was Syria, not Syria, excuse me, Iran. And the believers of Iran, they were very unique, somewhat, you could say, even strange, because they were a very beautiful group of Muslims that loved Islam, loved their nation, and loved righteousness above all else. And you see them, no matter what they had to go through, they tried to maintain the banner of Islam in a pure sense as relates to Western worlds and society. And then the third one would be Dagestan, Russia, the Muslims of Dagestan. You know, that was as I listened to the brothers speak about it, that was a serious reality that we face. In truth, we were right in the midst of what could have been a war. And the war would have been over us and how we are handled, and how members of our delegations were handled. And it got to a point where it escalated, where we thought that we were actually going to battle, or that they were going to battle that night. And they came and told us this thing's gonna go down. In the first place they're gonna bomb is the location that you're at. So we're gonna have to get you all up out of here, but this thing is about to erupt. And that's how intense it got, from the time that we landed in Dagestan to the time that we left the country of Russia. Russia was a serious piece as relates to Islam and what was taking place and how we were handled, yes, and how our host saw that. But when it came to Libya, and when it came to brother leader Muammar Gaddafi, there's no place that I have gone with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that received him like I saw them receive him in Libya. I would be with the minister in Libya, and just his mere presence, when the minister would walk up, to Gaddafi's security would respond, and they would make way so that the minister can greet his brother or see his brother. But even as we moved around, just how they would handle him, and even when we had different members of our security detail, because we'd become friends with some of them, we knew them. They always looked after brother minister, and even as we went on the World Friendship Tours and went around the world, they would have soldiers in different countries that would shadow us.
Wow.
And I know that. I don't know that from hearsay. I know it from a personal experience that I had, where I had an encounter we had Libyan intelligence was moving around me. And it was brought to my attention, do you know this is happening around you? And these did this and they did that. And it was this, that, and the other. And I was like, okay. But the bottom line is there's nowhere that the minister went where he didn't send his people to watch after us. So if we were even in Europe or in Malta or in other countries or throughout Africa, he had people that would watch over us. So that was a very unique relationship that was built with brother leader Muammar Gaddafi and brother Minister Farrakhan. And there's much more to be said about that. And I would imagine that when we write the history of our nation, Libya would come up as a friend. And to this day, you know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been a true friend
to Libya,
of the Jamahiriya of Libya. I mean, you couldn't have found a finer representative of love for that country, and a person better than Minister Farrakhan. His love for the people of Libya and what it meant to him, and even when our brother was murdered, how it affected the minister. And he said, you know, it's a hell of a thing when you look at a man like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and he's looking at two of his brothers, and he said, "My brother murdered my brother." You know, here it is, his brother in Iraq is murdering his brother in Islam.
Yes, sir.
Gaddafi. So I mean, that's a unique place, and I think that whenever the history of the Nation of Islam is written, Libya will show up because they did, to a degree, help us. And whatever degree that was, it was more so than some others that did for us as a country.
Sir. Thank you. And this last question, if any of you all want to, this is one of the last two. And I thank you all for your patience. And I thank the audience for your patience, because it's important that we get this down. As I talk to some of you all, this is how the Gospels are written, by the testifiers, by the witnesses. So one of this question before the last, I want to go to this slide where the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, this was after the Million Man March, spoke to a crowd. This was, I think, during Iran's celebrating the Iranian Revolution, if I'm not mistaken. Well, he spoke to 6 to 7 million there, right, in this square. Can any of you talk about that before we close out with the last question? Anybody? Go ahead, Brother Sultan.
Yes, sir. What was most significant to me about it is that, number one, the largest crowd the minister ever spoke to was 6 or 7 million in Tehran. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, during the celebration of the revolution, I think on that day, only two people speak. That's the religious leader of Iran and the political leader of Iran. To my knowledge and what we were exposed to, even to this day, the only other person who has spoken on that day is your brother, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Then when he spoke, you saw it. Now, you didn't see the part where the people are yelling, "Fire, fire, America, fire, fire, Israel, death to America, death to Israel." And when they brought the minister up, they were still going at it strong. Now, think about your man. 6 or 7 million out there saying what they're saying. Fire, fire, death to America. And your man says, Israel is not your problem. America is not your problem. Your problem is your deviation from the way of the prophet. It got quiet. And all of a sudden you're, they went there. You could hear it. Just think about 6 to 7 million. After the man tells you, after all that Vava America, Vava Israel, he gets up there and says, Israel is not your problem?
Hmm.
What kind of boldness is that, except that God is with you? Did he bow to what they were saying? No, he taught them. He gave them truth. And when he gave them that truth and they got quiet as a mouse, because it was totally different from what they were doing.
Yes, sir.
And they went crazy.
And why that testimony is so important, brother Sultan, what you just said, because the American media won't show that. Like, remember when the minister just went to Iran, they try to say Farrakhan was leading the chant for death to America, death to Israel, but you were there, you can give that testimony. This is why it's important. So we're going to go to Brother Haroon to share on this Iran, and then we're going to close out with a closing question, and I'll let you all know what the order is on that closeout question. I want to thank you all again. Go ahead, Brother Haroon.
Yeah, I just want I bear witness to what Brother Sultan said, the boldness and fearlessness of the minister to speak before all those people and not be fazed by the numbers of the crowd, but he spoke the truth regardless to whom or what. But I was reflecting over the walk to the location where we had to get. We actually walked through a lot of those people. It was 6 to 7 million. We walked for about maybe quarter mile or more just to get to the location. And the Iranian people, they're such zealots, if I could say, or enthusiasts. They have a lot of spirit. You know, they was, you know, chanting as we was walking toward the place, and the fervor of them was mind blowing. I mean, just that walk, and the minister, he wasn't, you know, he was focused on what he was going to do and what he was going to say, and he delivered the message that taught them. And I also want to say, even though it was 6 to 7 million people out there, it was 60 million that was viewing it. The whole country was opened up that day. So they all watched and heard from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. That's what I want to say.
Last question, brothers and sisters. And this is the order in which we're going to go in. We'll go with Brother Hamza, Sister Mary Alice, Brother Tadar, Brother Haroon, Brother Sultan, and then Brother Rashad. All right. I think I got everybody. So from your perspective, in what way did or does the World Friendship Tour confirm the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's identity in relation to the time and the work of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the mission of Master Farad Muhammad?
Well, to me, it represents we submit our will totally to do the will of Allah, and we don't deviate. The minister is the supreme example of hearing and obey. And if we do the same, he will take us as he's ascended to become a God and make us little gods of the Most High God. And I think our problem is that the whole world does not know who he is because we do not follow and we do not take seriously what he says and what he does. And in that, if all of us would line ourselves up with him, then Allah will bless us to be successful as he is in our own little world.
Thank you, my brother. And we're going to go, thank you, Brother Hamza. We're going to go to Sister Mary Alice.
Answer that question, Brother Willie. I want to submit to all of us, our people, our friends and our enemies as well, about this man that's in our midst.
Yes,
I want to go back to when he was on the plane, when we were on the plane going from Mali, going to Timbuktu. The plane could not take off for the simple fact is everybody on that plane, most of the people on the plane, aside from our delegation, were muftis, students of Islam, imams, all the who's who in the Islamic world was on that plane. And the plane couldn't take off because of the fact that every single one of them wanted to come and bow before the minister. Some have kissed his shoulder. Some came and kissed his forehead. Some came and kissed his elbows. Some wanted to kiss his feet. The minister literally had to stop him. And because they recognized the greatness, the spirit of Allah in that man. We fail to understand who this man is, but we need to find ourselves studying the books to find out who this man is. And maybe we will get to where Brother Hamza is saying, to our position of success. But until we do, because this is God's last answer to us as a people and to the world. And a lot of the people that study the book know who this man is, but they're not strong enough to come out and say. But those of us that follow him should definitely put our lives on the line, if we have to make sure that we teach and we testify about this man. And the trip that he goes around, he makes friends. He went around the world to make friends for all of us. And this is our, I would say, our last call is in the embodiment of Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. The messenger left us with a comforter, but we don't take comfort in him. We don't study him enough. And we need to do that. We need to submit our lives to study him, to know who we have our midst, so we will not be perished, because that's our last result. This is the God's mercy in living, breathing individual. That's Allah's mercy. So if we don't come and submit and follow him, then we will lose our mercy and we will all be perished. And that's what I would like to submit. And this is part of the reason Allah bless him to be so successful on all those tours that he has been, to teach, to go to all the corners of the world and teach us, and us come and rely and come and bow before the God and give thanks and praises.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you, sister. We're going to move to our brother Tadar.
It brings me to this. I one day here, I came up out the guard, minister getting ready to take a drive. I said, Brother Minister, you need some security. He said, no, brother. I have two bagging me. I worry about you all. Then I go back to Jordan. And he said, I step into the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's footprints, and you all should step in mine. So like Sister Mary has said, we as witness bearers should take this word crisscross the world and be humble to one another and start doing something for ourselves to help our people. Because the minister then gave us all that he has. We was on a plane flying over Africa. He raised his cup up. He said, my cup's running over. If I don't share out of my cup, Allah won't bless me with more in my cup. So as brothers and sisters, with the three backing us, if we just come together and unify. Yes, we say we love the minister, but when it comes to one another, we don't share that love. And that's what bothers him. And we just gotta have to stop it. Like she says, study and be real brothers to one another. And we will be successful in helping to raise our people up from the dead.
Yes, sir. Thank you, my brother. And we go to our brother Harun.
Can you repeat that question one more time?
So from your perspective, in what way did or does the World Friendship Tours confirm the minister's identity, especially as it relates to, you know, in the mission of Master Farad Muhammad and the mission of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? Just what does, basically, what do these tours confirm about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's identity?
Well, I believe it was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told the minister that Allah had went before him and made friends for him all over the world. We were blessed to see some of that friendship on these tours.
Yes, sir.
That Allah had made for him and for us. And as far as the minister, as I see how they describe Prophet Muhammad as a man with sublime morals, I looked that word up, sublime, and it means of such excellence, grandeur, or beauty as to inspire great admiration or awe.
Whew.
That's a good description of the minister, but he's that and then some. You know, he's a man of God, truly of God. As it's the minister is not one way in private that he's not in public. He's that same man, the same principles, the same moral, the same attitude towards things. He's the same man. He's not one of those type of people that pretend to be this way and is really that way. He's not that. And I've never seen him change. And I've been with him for close to 40 years. And he's always been true and real and a lover of us as a people and a lover of us as a nation. And that he's not changing from that position. And it's genuine, it's real, you know. He take care of people's families, he take care of anyone in need. He's always giving, he's always charitable. He's just a beautiful human being, very unique, very rare. And if it was anybody that I could describe him, would be the man of the book, Jesus. I would see him as that man because he embodies all that I read about since I was a little boy about Jesus. He embodies that. He shows that for real in his character and his works. So that's how I would see him.
Yes, sir. Thank you, my brother. Then we'll go to Brother Sultan and we'll close out with Brother Rashad.
Yes, sir. I'll say it like this, quickly coming from Brother Haroon. Paul sent epistles, he is the epistle. Muhammad sent letters, he is the letter. He is the Word of God. Say, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh and lived amongst men. We are and can be witnesses of that because he is what he says. He don't talk it. He's the is of it first as a bearing of witness that he is that man. There are no prophets that I've read that have suffered the way he has suffered. For the time that he suffered. I don't know of any other prophet who may have gone through the trials that he has gone through, for none of them lived in the kind of world we live in today. Only today can such a teaching reach the world that we have to make a choice by. Only today, what is being fulfilled in Scripture can be fulfilled. And if it's not, it's somebody else down the road. I don't think so. He has demonstrated every divine attribute of the Jesus, and you have to multiply it because this is my saying this. They couldn't see past Master Muhammad. He's here. The man he made in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is here. Scriptures didn't say that he would put everything up under him except himself. We can go beyond if we follow him. That we should be examples of the is of our belief. And then maybe one day we can get to say what he said when Sister Fatima, his daughter, said that when he was sitting in the chair, looking like he was 3 minutes from death, he was thanking Allah for allowing him to see into his universe. But wait a minute. He thanked Allah for the pain. What kind of believer do you have to be to thank God for pain? He said after that, he knew he was a Noah. Can you thank God for pain, knowing that if it's coming from the God, if he's allowing, it's good for you? Do you really believe that? Do I really believe that? He had to believe that even the pain coming from the God was good.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, my brother. We close out with our brother Rashad.
Oh, Allah. You know, to reflect over him, his travels, his work, what comes to my mind is Farrakhan is a voice crying out in the wilderness to prepare a highway that God may dwell in men, making the high plains low and the low plains bringing them high, and the crooked making them straight, and the rough making them smooth and plain. Farrakhan works is preparing a people that God may dwell in them. Not just a people in the United States, the people of the world. He starts in our community, but he doesn't belong to us. He belongs to God. And all the inhabitants that are on the earth that want to go by the way of God, he's offering that way. He comes to purge us from a world that has corrupted the vessels of God, and in purifying them so that God may come and dwell in those vessels. He come that we may become like him, one with his Father, one with God. And that offer is not just to the black man of America. That offer is to the world. But his offer to us is to lead the way back to God. And that's what makes the Nation of Islam unique. And that's why God presented us before the whole of the world. And it is our reflection and our works that will bear witness to him, not what we say. Our testimony is not what we say. Our testament and testimony become what we do. Farrakhan does what he does because of his love for his Father. My question to us who say we love him, do we love him enough that we would give him back to the world through us? Can you become a vessel that God may dwell in, that God may reflect from, that God may present an offering to a people that have lost their way? I say that Minister Farrakhan and his works is a bearing of witness that he's making a way that God may dwell in men. That if we accept his way, it purifies us so that God may come in us, and that we now can produce the kingdom of God on earth. That is our work. That is our commission. We'll never get another Farrakhan, because now we have become the body or the cells of what he represents. And the only way that we can represent him is to unite under what he has taught us: freedom, justice, and equality. And that is applied to all that falls under the sun.
Yes, sir.
I say thank you, Brother Minister Willie, for the opportunity to share with the believing community. But I say, dear family, as he said, our way out is repentance. Our way out is atonement. Our way out is forgiveness. And what happens is we have to, as he said, go into our places of our chambers and develop a relationship with God, because once God opens our doors, we are commissioned to become what he is. We can no longer talk about he's this and he's that, because if he is that to you, then it should reflect through you.
Yes,
of
sir.
what he is. And if you say that he's that man of the book, then who are you to that man of the book? And will you be one of those that he say, get away from me, I know you not.
Yes,
You work of iniquity, meaning that you'll be found doing a work, but it's not a work worthy of what he's given you. I say, dear family, Farrakhan is that voice that is crying in the wilderness. And he has went up throughout the world preparing a way that God may dwell in men.
Yes, sir.
And the earth may be turned back into a paradise.
Thank you, brother. And thank you to each and every one of you all. Thank you to the brothers who are behind the board. Thank you for NNV Network. Thank you for, I think, for every panelist, for every guest, everybody that's watching, everybody that made a comment, those who haven't made a comment. We thank you. We thank you. We thank you. So in closing, we thank you for tuning in to I Have a Testimony. Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below and follow us on social media. This is Brother Willie Muhammad with National Network View. Assalamu alaikum.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.